Welcome in to today's live. We are going to talk about or I'm sorry, not why. We're going to talk about how to get into turning your lived experience into an evergreen offer. Okay. And the first thing I'm gonna say, I have my heater on. So I hope you all can hear me. I got the mic so that it's like, background noise cancel, but it is cold in here. So I put my heater on. But anywho, let's dive into it. So yesterday we were talking about Empress energy, and I said that I wanted to continue that conversation into today. Actually, that is distracting me. I said that I wanted to continue that conversation into today about, the role of the Empress and running your business from Empress energy and like really just talking about your digital empire, right? And what I want to get into is how that energy looks through evergreen offers. So I was somebody who was always like the idea of an evergreen offer, and then I would shy away from it. And the reason that I would shy away from it, and you can probably relate to this too, is I would shy away from it because I always thought business was supposed to be this big, exciting thing that, was just so much fun all the time. And doing these evergreen offers did not allow that to happen. I was like, oh, my creativity is so capped if I'm selling the same thing over and over. The irony in that statement is me with a sales background. I know the power of selling the same thing over and over. That is where the money flows from, right? That's where the income comes from. It's when you're just consistently talking about the same thing over and over. And so when I took a step back and I was like, let me actually recognize what's going on here. Let me actually, revamp my structure a little bit so that it both is easy on my nervous system, but also consistent and predictable. The evergreen offer came back to play. And I realized then that that model allows for the creativity to come in other places. So if you're somebody who's like, I want to turn I want to sell digital products, I want to have, a coaching package, I want to be able to sell my experiences on repeat, but then you're also shying away because you're like, well, what about my creativity and stuff like that? Your creativity is in the content. That's something that I learned. My creativity comes into the content. My writing is the creative outlet. My videos are the creative outlet. My podcast is the creative outlet, right? These are all the places to be creative, but the business is the business. And I'm not to say that there's not creativity in business, but the business is the structure and the foundation that regulates me to allow for creativity to exist in other areas. And of course, you can create a new offer. Of course, you can do things. But what I want to get into today is how your offers should really support what your signature is. So, for example, my signature program is the Empress Authority, and it is how to turn your lived experience and turn it into a profitable business, right? And turn it with a digital offer suite. So within that digital offer suite, I'm not telling you to not have different tiers because I'm a firm believer in having different tiers. What I'm saying is your digital products should support your coaching or your high ticket offer or your signature offer or your mastermind or whatever it is, right? Those need to support that. And so, what that looks like, for example, let's say that you are, in the health and wellness industry and you are a fitness coach for postpartum moms and you help postpartum moms, reestablish their core strength and restore pelvic floor through exercise or something like that, right? And that is your high ticket coaching program. And you're like, well, Nikki, I like that. And, I had my own experience with this and I learned, different ways and methods to re-strengthen myself. And I really want to help other moms to it because it was a game changer for me. Perfect. Now we have a signature offer for you. But then you're like, I'm also creative. I have these other ideas. I want to play around with these other ideas and stuff like that. You have your core signature. Put your other things in support of that, in support of things you are going to consistently talk about in your content that bridges into that space. So what might that look like? That might look like an exercise guide, right? Maybe you're going to sell, an exercise guide that's low ticket, $17, $27, $7, and it's for postpartum moms and it's simple exercises, right? That they can go and they can do. Maybe you learned something about emotional regulation during that period of time in your life. And you're like, I really learned, I remember I had to create this mindful minute method during my second postpartum because I was losing my mind. And so maybe you learned something like that and you're like, okay, well, I'm in this health and wellness space, but I want I still want to talk about like the mindset side, right? The mental side. So you could create a masterclass on that or a video on that and sell that. But the point that I'm making is your evergreen is your signature. And these little micro offers they lead up to that. If somebody gets that and it's really good and they're like, "Oh, okay, actually, I need support in this," then that's where access to you comes in. And this is when I think about like an empire and an empress who just, holds the power and holds the authority. This is what I think of. This is what comes up for me is you're diversifying, but you're not diversifying in a way that's all over the place. And this was something that I myself had to learn because I was very diverse, but I was diverse in too many areas. And so I had to tone it in. I had to zone it back in to where everything that is created that is a digital product, like a micro product, supports your overall signature, supports your signature offer. Okay, this is how you hold the authority. You have your signature, what you're known for, and then the things that you create support that. Okay, so the way my take on that is like when you're in your Empress energy, you're not inventing income. You're not over here like chasing income. You're taking your lived experience, you're extracting that. You are the authority of what happened in your life, and you're turning that into a system, a process, a product, a container to guide other women through. You are the leader in that. This is your digital empire. So you lead through that, okay? You take that and you take that experience and you lead through that. The reason that many women overcomplicate digital offers is because they're chasing the trends, right? So it might be, oh, well, swipe files are trendy right now. Well, you've got if we're using the postpartum mom example, right? You've got your postpartum mom, ab restructure or like ab and pelvic floor workout container. But then you start to think and you're like, well, instead of having patience for that to grow, you're like, well, you know what? I actually was really good at emails and corporate, and I was good at this and I was good at that. I see that swipe files are trending. I just want to go make a quick buck. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pop out this product. I'm going to pop out that product. But none of them are the actual ladder into your signature offer. They're just things that you are jumping to because you feel like you need to jump to them. And this is why you're a little bit lost. And I say this from my own experience. These are the things that I used to do a lot. I used to jump around a lot instead of just having something that was evergreen that comes from my own experience. Okay. When you're doing this, you're also creating from pressure instead of clarity. This is desperate energy. Your nervous system is not going to relax if you have desperate energy. Your nervous system is not going to chill out and trust what you're building if you have desperate energy, because desperate energy leads to desperate creation, and desperate creation leads to desperate sales, and not all money is good money. So you have these desperate sales from this pressure that you put on yourself to get your light bill money covered, quickly. And then all of a sudden, like now you're in this resentful pattern because you're trying to sell something and focusing your energy on something that doesn't necessarily coincide and go in the proper lateral steps to where your signature is. Excuse me. So when that happens, you end up on a hamster wheel. These are the people who are like, well, nothing's working. I don't know why it's not working. It's taking so long. But you've dabbled into 17 things instead of saying focus because your nervous system is out of whack. Because you're sitting here thinking that you need to go and do XYZ because it's going to be the fast path. You can't do evergreen and the fast path. The two don't coincide. If you're doing something that is evergreen, and what evergreen means is that essentially you sell it on repeat. So like, for example, my hybrid group coaching, right? That is something that it's always like enrolling and de-enrolling. You have a certain period of time, people come in, people come out, but it's an evergreen system. When you are operating in an evergreen system, you have to have the patience. You have to also have the faith. I've said this plenty times in previous lives, how entrepreneurship is very faith based. And I don't mean in the religious sense. I mean, you're trusting something that you cannot see. That doesn't have to be religious, but you're trusting something that you cannot see. You're trusting a path that only you can see. And when you're not regulated within and it starts to get a little bit boring, it starts to get a little bit tedious, it starts to, not go as quick as you want it to. And mind you, we are the microwave generation. Dopamine is available at every moment of the day. When it's not going like that, we start to believe that we're doing something wrong. And then we want to pivot. We want to jump into the next thing. We want to jump into the next trend. The business owners that I have witnessed over the years who are doing well and are full-time entrepreneurs are the ones who have stayed committed to what they do for years on end. They've showed up repeatedly, even when it gets boring, even when the work is a little bit like low, the audience is low, there's nobody joining lives, right? Different things like that. They've stayed the course through the boredom, through the unpredictability, through the doubts. And the thing about it is the reason I always tell people you need to build something that comes from your own experience and your own lived experience mixed with the guidance of your intuition. Like you can't go wrong. What's going to happen is when you build like that, your faith remains strong through the doubts. You undeniably know that it's working and that it's going to work. The human brain comes to play and gets frustrated because the human brain doesn't necessarily know when. We try to put timelines and time constraints and different things like that into things. But when it's not working, quote unquote, because it's always working, but when it appears to not be working, when you appear to be in that hamster wheel and not moving forward, what's going on is you have no inclination to quit. You can't quit because you're so driven in your faith, you're so secure in your authority, you know that this is what you're meant to be doing. There is no such thing as quitting. And if you do quit, you'll end up right back here. I know because I used to try to run away from my business. I tried to run away in 2022 and 2023. And God was like, no, you can't do that. And so here I am, relaunched in 24. But my point is like, even if you try to run away, you can't run away. There's no way around it. And so what's going to happen is you either are going to you're going to be in an identity loop, trying to revert back to this old identity and trying to, reclaim something that you used to have and try to convince yourself that it's not working and things like that. But once that has been placed on your spirit, once you've gone through something and it's like, what's the expression I'm trying to think of? It's like once you wait, like once you open your eyes to things, like you can't turn it off. You can't go back to sleep, right? It's like becoming an adult. You can't go back to childhood. Once you realize like, oh, okay, this experience happened to me because I'm actually meant to guide somebody else through it. And you have the confirmation through your lived experience. You have the confirmation through meditative guidance. You have the confirmation through the people asking questions. You have the confirmation through, the logical confirmation through I searched the internet and people really want this and stuff like that. Once you have all those layers of confirmation, the next piece that comes with that is the identity. And this is where people panic because you can have a conscious level confirmation and be like, okay, yes, this is absolutely what I'm supposed to be doing. But then does your identity match that level? This is the identity loop where what I'm talking about is when people try to run back to what they used to be doing. Their identity hasn't caught up yet. They haven't embodied that new identity to get to where they're going. Because there's a lot of things that are going to have to fall by the wayside and it's very uncomfortable. And a lot of people don't like that discomfort. Majority of people don't like that discomfort. We are wired for comfort. Especially this generation. This generation is very wired for comfort. If you're bored, grab your phone and go scroll. If you're hungry, there's food places open 24 hours. You can go get something to eat, right? If you, let's see. If you're bored, turn on Netflix. Like we're constantly in stimulation. We're constantly able to comfort a discomfort. Even, and some of them are raising their kids like that, like the long car rides. Well, here, just take the iPad. Why? Because the parents don't want to be bothered with the discomfort of the kids whining. The kids don't want to be, they don't want the kids uncomfortable sitting in the back seat of a long car ride and stuff. We are constantly being shown ways to comfort ourselves. And so the thing of it is when we have to step into where we're meant to step into, get into this next identity, it's uncomfortable. And we haven't been taught how to be uncomfortable. So we equate uncomfortability with wrong. Well, this is uncomfortable. I'm not supposed to feel like this. So I'm going to go back to what I was doing. But what's going to happen is God, or whatever you believe in, God is going to continue to God is going to make that old identity so uncomfortable that you don't have a choice. Then you have to choose which discomfort you're going to experience. Are you going to experience the discomfort that you've been used to because your comfort level won't stay comfortable forever, or are you going to move into the next level of discomfort knowing that that one is temporary? That was a word. Write that one down. That was a word. Don't reflect on Take a moment, pause, reflect on that. That one was, yeah, that was a word. But my point in all of this is you can't close your eyes once they've been opened. So you're just going to have to create something that's going to support what needs to be created, which would be the evergreen model with the supporting products beneath them. Okay. Let me see what else I have in my notes here. Oh, another reason that women overcomplicate digital offers, something else that I have been guilty of, is always thinking that you need a new idea. You're quitting before you even have enough data to tell you if this offer works or not. That goes back to being impatient. If you're into birth charts, I'll share something with you. If you're into birth charts, one of the things in my birth chart that is like prevalent is learning patience. And it's interesting to witness in real time. And again, it's one of those things when you open your eyes to it, you can't shut it out, right? But anywho, thinking that you constantly need a new idea. You don't always need a new idea. You don't even need to reinvent the wheel. And I'll go on to say too, one of the common things that I see too is, well, somebody's already doing that. Somebody already has, let's say it's me, right? Somebody already has like a business and they blend spirituality into it and they teach that. Like I can't go do that. First of all, I read an analogy the other day and I'm gonna share it with you because I thought it was great. When we look at snowflakes are falling from the sky, right? If you've ever seen the snowfall, they all look the same as they fall. They all look the same. Like, oh, okay, it's all snow. But when we actually deep dive into each individual flake, no two are alike. They're all unique. So when you're sitting here and you're thinking that market is saturated, somebody's already doing it. Yeah, I had, it's also like it's similar to my experience but I don't know if I can do it because it's already being done. I want you to think of yourself as a snowflake. From the bird's eye view, yes, they all look like snowflakes. They all look the same. But when you get into the little microscopics and the really holding them and studying them into your hand, you can see that they all are individual and different. So just because your life experience that you feel really called to teach on and you want to turn into, an offer suite and into a business to help others is similar to person B's life experience who has an offer suite and, helps others and stuff through it. You guys are your own individual snowflakes. People will have a preference. I always use the bread aisle example. When you go to the bread aisle, there can be 15 brands of wheat bread, and there's still going to be a specific wheat bread that somebody wants. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to always need a new idea. You just need to take exactly what it is that you have experienced, that you feel called to guide others on, that you feel a strong pull to act on and help others through. And you need to package it in different ways so you can meet people at different price points. You have your evergreen, your signature program. This is who you are. This is what you're known for. This is access to you. And then if you're like me and you like to diversify a little bit, then you have supporting digital products that go with it. That's an offer suite. Maybe you're meeting the mom who's like, well, I don't want to, invest yet in high ticket and have hands-on accountability and stuff, but I do want to try something DIY. So you meet her with the DIY option. But it all supports your ecosystem. This is your empire. Okay. Now, when we talk about lived experience versus content, when it comes to evergreen models and things like that. So your content is what you post, obviously. The lived experience is what you've moved through, solved, survived, stabilized, and embodied. The embodiment piece is key. You don't want to sell from your old identity. You don't want to create content from your old identity. If you're here to be a thought leader and you're here to do leadership work and you're here to lead a movement and, create a business and a brand that positions you as the authority and brings people to you and you move them into their own authority or move them through your program or whatever it is, you can't sell that from the identity you were before you became the authority. You can't sell that from the old space. You have to step into the new space. You can talk about where you were, and I actually strongly recommend that when it comes to, your content and if you're and your sales style content, your story-led sales style content, that you talk about where you used to be. You talk about who you were before that because that puts relatability into that. That puts your audience into, okay, she does get I'm where she used to be and I want to get to where she's going, right? Do you have to do that every time? No. Sometimes where you are is enough because people are like, I just want to be there. But there is a nice relatability piece to that. When you do that, you're not doing personal overshare. Okay. So you're talking about the transition, you're talking about the shifts that you made, you're talking about the responsibility that you took, you're talking about, how you rebuilt self-trust, the lessons that you learned along the way, the structures that you had to leave behind, leaving behind what was misaligned, rebuilding identity. And then, if like in the business, like creating the income without burning out and stuff like that. So your lived experience is already organized. It's already ready to go. But instead of just treating it like chaos and throwing spaghetti at the wall, you need to structure it. Treat it like a curriculum. Treat it like a course. And then take that and sell in your content. And some of your best content is also going to be I hear a mentor calls it a think piece. And I like that phrase a lot. Um, but it's going to be something that you saw from somebody else and it got your wheels turning and you're like, actually, I've got something to say on that. And then you post something like that. Oh, I remember when, this resonates with me because I remember when I used to be in this position too. And, this is what I did to get out of it. Or, if I were to give this person advice, this is what I would do for them. This is how I would help them move through it. Different things like that positions you as a leader and as the authority. Okay. So when we think about turning our lived experience into an evergreen offer, the first thing is, what did you learn to hold? What did you wish you had when you were starting? And what are you able to hold now? So, for example, if back in the day, well, for me, everything is so cyclical. I have these like live epiphanies, I swear. But, anyways, everything is so cyclical, right? And so I had to learn how to hold patience and how to hold space in my own business, right? How to maintain consistency. And that sounds easy, but taking it a step further, well, how did I learn to hold that? I learned if I just focus on my lived experience as the business model, if I focus on the things that I went through as my business model, then I can hold the consistency for it and I can hold the space for it. And this is why that's what I teach to other people. If you want to hold the consistency and hold the space and build something that is going to align with how you want to show up, start with your lived experience because you can always hold the space on what you've been through. You can always maintain consistency on what you feel confident talking about. You can't maintain consistency if you are talking about what somebody else talks about because you have to wait for new ideas to come from somebody else. But when you're talking about your own experience, what you've been through, how you did XYZ, you can talk about that over and over and over again. This is why I can talk about identity work like easily and daily because I've gone through a lot of identity transitions. There's still, more to come and more currently evolving, but overall like there's been a lot of identity growth for me. There's been a lot of like spiritual identity growth as well, which is why I can talk about that over and over. I can hold a consistent space in that. I can hold a room in that. I've created a lot of digital offers. I've been scatterbrained and had to get focused. I've been the one who's like, looking for an adult or the mom and with answers and stuff and, not holding my own space, but waiting for permission, which is why I can talk about like, no, this is how you're going to do it. Because these are all things that I had to experience myself and learn and grow through, which then now I'm more than qualified to teach on it because I was always looking for permission and hoping that a coach would validate my idea and hoping that, my friends would say like, "Oh yeah, you're doing a great job," and wanting the praise, what, different things like that until I was like, that is not how an empire is built. That is not being an empress. That is not being an authority. You're playing the role of one. You're pretending to be one. You can play the part like, "Hey, from the outside looking in, sure, but internally, I knew that that was not the case." And that's what I speak to in others is internally, I know that's not the case for you yet. And so we got to build that up. How do you build that up? Extract what you know, extract what you've been through, and let that be your model. Let that be your offerings. Let that be your signature. Let that be your digital product. Let that build the business. And as you grow and you learn more things, you can refine it as you go along. Okay. Think about when you're thinking about your offer too, think about the language. How do you naturally explain this to others? What is your tonality? Do you cuss? Do you not cuss? Do you have more of a, corporate persona online? Do you want to be yourself? I used to tell people all the time when I was focused on email marketing, like write how you talk. You want people to understand your tone, your voice. You want them to hear it when they read what you write or when they watch you on video. My number one goal when I'm doing content, and especially written content, is that if you've watched my video and then you go and read an article that I published, you're like, "Oh yeah, I could hear Nikki saying this." That's the number one goal for me. If you read my email or read an article, you're like, "Yep, I could hear her saying this. That's exactly how she talks." Okay, so what is your tone? How do you naturally explain things to others? Me, I like to do mindset shifts. A little controversial. Little like, "Oh, I didn't think of it like that." With a little tough love after. Like, "Oh, damn, I didn't think about it like that. She just triggered me. Oh, hold on. She's holding my hand while she triggers me," right? That's my tone. So what is your tone? How do you teach things? And if you're like, "Well, I kind of have a tone. I don't really know what to talk about." Think about what do people ask you about repeatedly? One of the common things that's been coming up for me is like people maintaining just like emotional regulation, people maintaining faith, people maintaining, how do I hold the faith when my life is falling apart? What do people ask you about? I've had people, recently, well, how do I turn my lived experience into a digital offer? How do I make money online? How do I, um, what's another one? How do I start like with meditation and things like that, right? Different things like that. The things that people ask me is how I was able to create my offers from my own experience and then recognizing, hey, other people are wanting to know this too. If you're like, well, nobody asked me anything, well, then what questions did you have? What questions were you asking before you got answers? There's a whole product suite right there. Okay. Now think of a core transformation. This is important. When you're building your evergreen style offer, business model, I should say. We're not just talking about one offer. One core transformation, a before and after, and the decision that changed everything. You're going to speak about that decision. Who were you before that decision was made? That's who you're talking to. It makes it when you're taking, I'll say this too, when you're taking and creating an offer suite around your own lived experience, it's a lot easier to speak to your ideal client because you were your ideal client. This simplifies the sales process. It simplifies the marketing. I'm not saying you're not going to you're still going to market, you're still going to do research, still going to do all those things. But when you were that person, you know exactly who you're talking to because all you have to do is think, okay, hold on. What did I need to know? What would have stopped the scroll on me? What video would have stood out for me? What, article would have had me like, yes, I absolutely need this. What sales page would have had me like, yes, I need this. Okay. An evergreen business model, excuse me, it's not solely effort, right? It's identity based. It's all built from identity. You hold the identity, you maintain the identity, and then you continue to, as you continue to embody that, you continue to talk about it. So, wrapping up, I have so many other notes. Let me see. Um, I touched on that already. Digital products without making them busy work. And this is making them, so I'll reiterate that. So if your what I mean by when your digital product is busy work, there's no clear hierarchy. For me, right? If you buy Digitalize Your Expertise, which is a DIY course to take your lived experience and turn it into a digital product, you can have that. You can DIY that. You can definitely go make money from utilizing what's in there. But then the next hierarchy might be like, okay, well, I want to know how to scale this. Or, I've got the offer, but I really need some accountability. I need somebody to like kind of check in with me and stuff like that. So then from there, you come into to the high ticket program, right? To the Empress Authority. Or maybe you're like, okay, I've got the offer, but you know what? I have my identity is off. I feel imposter syndrome. I feel complacent. I feel like I know what I'm doing, but I don't trust myself to do it. Things like that. You come into the Empress Authority. And you know what I mean? There's levels to it. There's layers to it. And so when your digital offer is busy work, for me, I had a lot of busy work offers. There's that, but then also, here is what was something that I had that wasn't doing anything? Here's like a 5-minute meditation and this, right? Like, and it's not to say that those can't go in line, but you want it to have a clearer pathway. You want your digital offers to also support the promises and the outcome in your signature offer. Then it makes it easy for people to be like, oh, you know what? I am missing a little something. Maybe I will go check in with her. Maybe I will go see about, working with her one on one or investing in her group or whatever it is, right? So, to wrap all of this up, Evergreen is Empress energy. End of story. Okay. It regulates your nervous system. You get to create income without the urgency. It's consistency without depleting yourself. You're not doing these constant launches. I could go the rest of my life without doing a launch and I wouldn't miss it. I hated launches. I hated them. There's just for me, and some people love them. I don't. I don't. Okay. I don't like because I've got to link everything up with my cycle. So then I got to plan my launch around my cycle. I got to do all these things, right? Like, it didn't work for me. Okay. And then I'm stressed about the numbers and I'm worried about this. And, and then it's like, okay, well, this launch door's closed and I got to open them up again. I got to do it again. No, that's not for me. If it's for you, I'm not for you. I'll tell you that right now. If that's where you're like, "No, I love launches. I want something where I'm launching all the time," like, go find a launch expert. I don't like it. Now, with the Evergreen though, your nervous system is regular. You create something one time. That's why I love digital products too. You create it one time and then you just continuously talk about it and sell it. And then after it sells and stuff like that, and you maybe get an epiphany for another one, and that one's got a good system going, sure, then you can add on another one. But don't be prematurely adding on all these digital offers. That was my number one, at top 3 mistakes. So don't be prematurely adding on all these offers, okay? Evergreen, Empress Energy, make your sales, make your money, show up for your business, go live your life. That is my entire mantra of 2026. I almost said 2024. Where am I? That's the whole thing of 2026. Okay? Oh, I said that. Consistency without depletion. Okay? You're not relaunching your worth every single month. Okay. You just build once and you get to let it work for you. That's it. So, with that being said, hold on. I want to make sure I didn't forget nothing. With that being said, that is an overview on how you can take your life experience, lived experience, and turn it into a digital offer suite. That is a way that you can structure it. So, like I said, a signature with some supporting offers, take what you've been through and think about how think about the progression of what you naturally went through. Think about how you would help somebody else through it and think about a way that you would want to, or a few ways that you would want to guide somebody else through it. Would you want to do this one on one? Do you want to do this in a group setting? Do you feel like a DIY approach is good enough? And let me reiterate something else too. You don't have to create everything at once. Okay, you don't need to be like, "Oh my god, Nikki said that I need to have an offer suite, so I need to go, like, I need to go get my story that Imma teach and market research and create 5 different offers." No, 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 no. No. Start with 1. Start with 1, sell it, see how it goes, see what happens. You can start with low ticket and build up. You can start with high ticket and build down. I personally liked the low ticket build up way. I had tried the high ticket build down way, wasn't it didn't work too well for me. Low ticket and building up has been that's the way that I did it. It doesn't work for everybody. Some people do high ticket and build it down, okay? And something I wanna say too is if you come and you apply to work with us inside of the Empress Authority, you get to decide if you wanna do the high ticket way and build down or the low ticket way and build up, okay? We'll support you either way. We'll get you the right resources that you need. The most important thing is understanding who you're talking to, understanding what transformation you're speaking to, understanding how your experience translates into a digital offer, into a product suite. I had a client last year, and just to give you an example, she took her a breakup and she didn't romanticize the guy, but she took a breakup and she had like a lot of self-awareness around this breakup. And she was like, wow, I had like anxious attachment. And then she started to really recognize a pattern that she was in. And when she recognized that pattern, she took that and she was like, I don't want other women to experience this. A lot of women have this pattern. And so she took that anxious attachment and she turned it into a workshop, a coaching program, and an ebook, right? So just 3 offers from that experience. Grew a TikTok following, started making money. Okay, it gets to be like that. She felt called to teach to that. She knew that that was what she was meant to do. She knew that that experience was not lost. And because it wasn't lost, she was able to turn it into a digital offer suite, a business, and a profitable ecosystem. So that's what I'm telling you. You can do it. You can absolutely take what you've been through and turn it into an offer suite. There's nothing too boring. All you need is to feel confident in what you're talking about, be able to be consistent with it, and find the market for it. And if you were looking for answers in the beginning, then you know that there's a market for it. So, with that, if you want full guidance on this, I am going to drop the link to apply to the Empress Authority. It is 6 months from start to finish. Even if you're brand new, we can get you up and running. This is not a done for you. You will be doing the work. I'll be helping you. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next training, probably next week. Bye.